I have to start today with a confession, a really specific and just a very exhausting confession. You know that feeling when you send an email that's a little risky, or maybe you speak up in a meeting with an idea that's not fully baked, or honestly, even just leaving a dinner party?
The post-game analysis.
It's so much worse than analysis. It's like this frantic radar sweep. I'll be driving home and my brain is just replaying the last 3 hours on a loop. Did I talk too much? Did that joke land, or was it just
But they
awkward?
think I'm smart.
Do they think I'm an idiot? Exactly. It's this desperate scanning for data to prove that I'm okay, and it is just completely exhausting.
It is exhausting, and I can tell you right now, you are definitely not alone in that car. That radar swings you're describing, that is, well, it's the textbook definition of external referencing.
External referencing. Okay. It sounds a little bit like a technical term for, being a human being with anxiety.
Well, in a social world, it sort of is the default setting for a lot of us.
Hmm.
But here's the thing. When it becomes your primary operating system, that's when it gets dangerous.
How so?
Basically, external referencing is when you outsource your authority.
Yeah.
You're looking for approval or permission or validation from the outside world to determine your value on the inside.
So I'm letting the world draw the map for my life instead of, holding the compass myself.
Precisely. And the consequences are really serious. We aren't just talking about being a little insecure here.
Hmm.
When external referencing dominates your personal coherence, it just erodes.
Coherence erodes. That is a heavy phrase. What does that actually look like in real life?
Well, think about it. If your identity is reactive, if you are constantly shape-shifting to fit what you think is acceptable in whatever room you're in, then who are you really?
Right.
You just become a collection of reactions instead of a person.
Mhm.
Decisions start to drift because you weren't making them, you're just calculating them based on how you think others will react.
Right.
Self-trust weakens.
And then you lose track of what you actually want.
Exactly. You spend so many years prioritizing what other people might want from you
Yeah.
that you can't hear yourself anymore.
That hits way, way too close to home. It's like being a leaf in the wind. You're moving, sure, but you are not driving. So if that's the trap,
Hmm.
what's the way out? I'm assuming the answer isn't just stop caring about people.
No, it's not sociopathy. The counter move is what we call internal referencing.
Internal referencing.
It's the practice of orienting your decisions, your values, and your meaning from within first. It's about using self-trust as your primary compass.
Okay, I have to stop you there because I can already hear the listener and my own internal critic just screaming, does this mean we just ignore everyone else? Is this a license to be a selfish jerk? Sorry I was late, I was internally referencing and didn't feel like being on time.
No, and I'm glad you went there because that is the single biggest misconception.
Hmm.
Internal referencing isn't about isolation. It's not about building some big wall around yourself.
What is it?
It is about where the decision starts. It's a very specific kind of self-listening that happens before you engage with the world. You check the thermostat inside the house before you look out the window.
Okay, that sounds great on a coffee mug. Listen to yourself. But practically,
Mm-hmm.
in the real world, that is so hard. Half the time, I don't even know what I'm hearing. Is it hunger? Is it anxiety? Is it intuition? It's just noise.
That's a fair point. Listen to yourself is pretty vague advice.
Yeah.
So let's get mechanical. We need to move from this idea of trust your gut to actual data collection.
Yeah.
If we're going to build this internal compass, we need to know what signals we're actually looking for.
So I'm sitting there trying to make a decision. What are the inputs? What am I listening for?
There are 4 distinct signals you need to tune into. Think of them like the dashboard of your internal system. And the first one, the one we ignore the most, is the body.
The body. Okay, so beyond just my back hurts, what are we looking for?
We're looking for these binary cues. Tension versus ease, fatigue versus vitality. Your body is an incredibly honest instrument. It often knows the truth long before your brain is willing to admit it.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. Imagine you get an invitation to a networking event. Your brain, your external reference says you have to go. It's good for your career. People will notice if you aren't there. But what is your body doing in that moment?
Oh, my shoulders are immediately up by my ears. My stomach feels like a clenched fist. I literally feel heavy.
Exactly. That heaviness, that is data. That is your body signaling a lack of alignment. Or, think about being around a specific person. After you hang out with them, do you feel energized or do you feel a fatigue that just doesn't make sense? Like you need a nap just to recover from having a coffee.
That energy vampire feeling.
Yeah, that's the body talking. So signal 1 is physical sensation. Signal 2 is emotion. But again, we need to be specific. We're looking for attraction versus aversion, and interestingly, grief versus joy.
Grief is an interesting one to include there. Usually we treat grief as something to fix or to get over as fast as possible. Why is that a signal?
Because grief tells you what you value. You only grieve what actually matters to you. If you feel a wave of sadness about a project ending or a change in your life, that sadness is a compass point. It points directly to what you love.
So if we suppress those so-called negative emotions, we lose the data they carry.
You lose the data.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so we have body and emotion. What's third?
The third is intuition. Now, this is where people get tripped up because intuition can feel very woo-woo, or we confuse it with something else entirely.
Right. This is my struggle. I'll feel this overwhelming urge to do something or run away from something, and I'll tell myself, oh, that's my intuition. But usually it's just panic.
Hmm.
How do you tell the difference between trust your gut and I am absolutely terrified?
Right.
This is the million-dollar distinction. The key variable is urgency.
Urgency.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fear screams, trauma screams, panic says you have to decide right now, do it, run, fix it. It feels frantic. It feels hot.
Okay, so what does intuition feel like then?
Intuition is quiet. It's like a drop of clarity. It doesn't scream. It just kind of lands.
Mm-hmm.
It's a quiet knowing without agency. It just says, this is the way. It's patient. It will still be true tomorrow morning. Fear usually won't be.
That is actually incredibly helpful. So if I feel like I'm on a ticking clock, that's probably not my inner wisdom speaking. That's my anxiety.
Almost certainly. Intuition is a calm, neutral data point. It's not an emotional roller coaster.
Okay, so body, emotion, intuition. What's the fourth signal?
The fourth is values. This is your historical data. What has consistently mattered to you over time? Not just what you want in this moment, but what you have stood for over the last 10 years of your life.
So we have these four inputs: body, emotion, intuition, and values. Now I have to play devil's advocate again, because this still sounds risky.
Go for it.
Let's say I wake up on a Tuesday. My body feels ease at the idea of staying in bed. My emotion is aversion to going to work. My intuition just says sleep is good.
I see where this is going.
If I'm internally referencing, don't I just call out sick and eat cereal in bed all day? Isn't this just a fancy intellectual way of justifying hedonism or just being lazy?
This is the crucial correction. These signals are not commands. They are not impulses you have to obey blindly. They are data to integrate.
Data to integrate. Okay, unpack that.
Think of yourself as the CEO of a company. Your body, emotion, and intuition are all department heads. They come into your office and they give you their reports. The body says, I'm tired. The emotion says, I'm bored.
And the CEO doesn't just say, okay, shut down the factory, we're all going home.
Exactly. The CEO, your conscious self, takes that data and integrates it with the fourth signal, your values. Maybe one of your values is reliability or providing for my family. So the CEO says, okay, I hear you, body. We're tired. We're not going to quit the job today, but we are going to cancel our dinner plans tonight and get to bed at 9 p.m.
So you acknowledge the signal without letting it drive the car off a cliff.
Right. Internal referencing isn't about being a slave to your whims. It's about making a coherent choice. A toddler screams, I'm tired, and melts down. An adult notices, I'm tired, and manages their energy so they can keep functioning.
I really like that distinction. You're the executive. You don't ignore the data because then the whole factory explodes, but you don't just let the data run the show wild either.
It's a perfect analogy. And this brings us to the next big hurdle. We've talked about how to listen to yourself. But we have to live in the world. We have bosses and partners and kids and friends. The fear is that if I start listening to myself this closely, I become rigid. I stop taking advice. I become impossible to work with.
Right. My internal compass says no, so screw your spreadsheet.
Exactly. We worry that self-trust equals being closed-minded. But the reality is actually the opposite. Internal referencing allows for responsiveness, not rigidity.
What's the difference there?
Think about a physical compass. If you're holding a compass and you turn your body, what does the needle do?
It stays pointing north. It adjusts.
It adjusts. It's responsive.
Hmm.
But it adjusts relative to magnetic north, not just because you shook it around. There's a phrase I really love for this. The inner compass adjusts from contact, not pressure.
Contact, not pressure. That's really nuanced. Break that down for me.
Okay, so pressure is when someone demands you change your mind, and you do it because you're afraid of their reaction. You cave. That's external referencing. You're letting the outside force just spin your needle.
Okay, I get that.
Contact is when you encounter new information. Let's say you have an idea for a project. Your intuition says it's good. Then a colleague gives you feedback. Hey, looking at the data, I don't think this is going to work.
So contact is taking that information in.
Yes. You let that information make contact with your internal system. You take it into the CEO's office, you weigh it, you check it against your values, and maybe you decide, you know what, they're right, I'm going to change course. That isn't caving. That is navigating.
So the difference is who's making the final decision. In one scenario, I change because I'm scared you won't like me. In the other, I change because I've processed your feedback and I genuinely agree with it.
Yes. The advice is considered, not absorbed. The opinions are heard, not inhabited.
Heard, not inhabited. I feel like I need to tattoo that on my forehead before I log onto social media.
It's the ultimate filter. You can hear someone's opinion of you, even a negative one, without letting it move into your spare bedroom and rearrange all the furniture. You look at it, you evaluate it, and then you decide if it actually belongs to you.
That sounds incredibly freeing, but also, it sounds high stakes. Let's say I'm facing a really big decision, not just a project, but a career pivot or a breakup. The signals are mixed. The body is stressed. The intuition is quiet. How do I know if I'm making the right call?
When the signals get messy like that, we have a litmus test. 3 questions you can ask yourself to cut through the noise.
Okay, let's run through them. I want to apply them to a scenario. Let's say I get offered a promotion, more money, fancy title, but I know the culture is toxic and I'll be working 80 hours a week. My ego wants it. My body dreads it.
That's a perfect scenario. Question 1. Does this preserve my integrity?
Oof. Okay. If I took the job knowing I'll be miserable and probably mean to my family, then no. I'm basically selling out my own peace for a title.
Question 2. Does this increase or reduce internal friction?
Well, the money reduces financial friction, but the internal friction, that war between I should be grateful for this and I hate this, that friction is going to skyrocket.
And that internal friction burns more energy than any physical labor.
Mm.
Now, for the third question, this is the big one. Can I stand by this decision without self-betrayal?
Self-betrayal, that's the feeling of saying yes when every single cell in your body is screaming no.
Exactly. Self-betrayal is the ultimate cost of external referencing. If you take that job just to impress your college friends or your parents while abandoning your own needs, you've betrayed yourself. And that is a very hard injury to heal from.
It's strange because on paper, taking that promotion looks like success, but through this lens, it looks like a disaster.
That's why internal referencing can change the entire trajectory of your life. You stop chasing the paper version of success, and you start building a life that actually fits you.
But, and I have to play the skeptic again, doesn't this make you, difficult? If I'm always checking my integrity and trying to avoid self-betrayal, am I going to be that person who can't just go with the flow?
It might make you harder to manipulate, it might make you harder to use, but it makes you much, much easier to trust.
Say more about that.
This leads us right into how this impacts our relationships. We tend to think that doing whatever people want from us makes us good partners or friends, but it actually creates a dynamic of performance versus presence.
Performance versus presence.
When you are externally referencing, you are performing. You are being the person you think I want you to be. You're acting a role, the chill girlfriend, the reliable employee.
Which works for a while, until it doesn't.
Right. Because it's not a relationship with you. It's a relationship with a mask. And eventually you get resentful because you're working so hard to keep the mask on, and I don't even know the real you.
It's exhausting for both people, honestly.
So internal referencing shifts this to meeting. The visual I like is 2 solid circles touching rather than 2 muddy puddles just merging into one.
Meeting, not merging. So I have my boundaries, you have yours, and we meet in the middle somewhere.
Yes. And when we merge, when I need you to validate me just to feel okay, then any disagreement between us feels like a threat. If you don't like my favorite movie or you disagree with my politics, I panic. Because if we're merged, your disapproval must mean I am wrong.
That whole if you don't like my choices, you don't like me thing.
Precisely. But if I am internally referenced, if I'm a solid circle, then your disagreement is just information. Yeah. Oh, you don't like that movie. Huh, that's interesting. It doesn't shatter me because my stability isn't built on your agreement.
That takes so much drama out of relationships. It turns a potential fight into just a conversation.
It makes interactions clean.
Yeah.
It makes them kind. Because I'm not secretly trying to extract validation from you. I'm just here with you.
I really love that. But I do have to circle back to the S word, selfishness. Even with the whole solid circle metaphor, some people, especially those of us raised to be people pleasers, are going to feel like prioritizing their own signals is just narcissistic.
I hear that. But there is a massive difference between self-centeredness and self-groundedness.
Distinguish those for me.
Self-centered means the world revolves around me. I don't see you. I only see what you can do for me. But self-grounded means I am standing on my own 2 feet so that I can actually see you. Think of a lifeguard.
Oh,
If a lifeguard jumps into the water to save someone, but they themselves are panicking, if they don't have their own buoyancy, their own ground, what
they
happens?
both drown. You get pulled under by the person you're trying to save.
Exactly. To save someone, the lifeguard has to be grounded. They need to be stable. Internal referencing is that stability. It's the oxygen mask principle. You put yours on first, not because you don't care about the person next to you, but because if you pass out from a lack of self-trust, you are useless to everyone.
So being grounded in yourself actually allows you to be more useful to the world. It's not retreating, it's preparing to engage.
Yes. The goal is to listen first to what is happening inside and then engage the world from that place of clarity. That engagement is the key. You aren't staying in the cave. You're going out, but you are bringing a stable, coherent self with you.
It's the difference between walking into a room desperate for everyone to like you and walking into a room ready to like them.
That is a beautiful way to put it. And that shift changes everything. It stops the anxiety cycle.
Let's talk about that anxiety payoff before we wrap up, because we started this whole conversation talking about the exhaustion of that radar sweep.
The anxiety comes from the constant recalibration. You're trying to hit a moving target. What pleases your boss might annoy your partner. What was cool last year is cringe this year. If your sense of self depends on hitting that target, you will be chronically anxious.
It's like trying to dress for a party where the dress code changes every 5 minutes.
Exactly. When you switch to internal referencing, the target stops moving. You are the target. You calibrate to your own values. And that leads to a sustained peace.
But, and here is the catch, it also leads to total accountability.
The scary part.
The scary part, if you make the decision, you own the outcome. You can't say, well, I only took this job because my mom wanted me to. If you end up in a ditch, you have to admit you drove there.
That is a heavy price for a lot of people. It's so much easier to be a victim of other people's expectations. It is easier, but it's also powerless. You cannot have authority over your life without the accountability for your life. You get the steering wheel, but you also get the blame.
And I guess the argument here is that the ditch is preferable if I drove there myself rather than being kidnapped and taken there.
100%. Because if you drove there, you can drive out.
Yeah.
If you're just a passenger, you're stuck.
That actually makes me want to grab the wheel, even if I'm a bad driver at first.
And it's a practice. You don't just achieve internal referencing and then you're done. You have to keep checking the compass. Every single decision is a rep in the gym of self-trust.
So let's bring this all home. We started with the what do they think panic. We moved through the signals body, emotion, intuition, values. We established that we need to filter advice, not absorb it. And we landed on this idea that this makes us better partners, not worse ones.
It's the journey from reacting to the noise to responding from a place of clarity. It really is how coherence is maintained in a very noisy world.
I want to leave our listener with one final thought that came up in my research for this. It's about the definition of freedom. We usually think of freedom as, no rules or I can do whatever I want.
Right, unrestrained action.
But there's a concept here that internal referencing is how freedom becomes inhabitable.
Inhabitable freedom. It's such a powerful phrase.
It really stopped me in my tracks because if I have total freedom, but I don't know who I am, I'm just lost in space. I'm just floating.
Exactly. Freedom without self-knowledge is just chaos. But if you build that internal structure, if you know your values, you trust your intuition, then your freedom becomes a house you can actually live in. It becomes a home.
So the question for you, the listener, is this. Is your freedom a vacant lot full of weeds, or is it a home you can actually inhabit?
And you can only build that home from the inside out.
Stop checking the window for the weather report. Check the thermostat inside. Thanks for diving in with us.
See you next time.